Hello, Internet world. Happy New Year. It is your first. It is your first.
Let's go.
There you go. It is your first Bearded Brothers podcast of the new year of what? What are we in now? 2024?
2024.
2024.
This feels weird.
This feels weird. All right, but we are your Bearded Brothers. I am Matt.
I'm awake, Chris.
And I am wearing pants today, so I think it's a good day.
I'm wearing sweatpants, so we're good.
All right. Well, we have a lot of things to talk about. We have some games to go over, and we have some not so nice thoughts about specific officiating crews.
Oh, and certain games.
And certain games.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. All I'll say is that after one game, my brother sent me a message. Well, I'm going to go drink now.
Yep.
I was like, well, there you go. Bye.
Yep, there was a game that I really don't want to talk about that we'll have to talk about.
Yeah,
man,
and here's the thing.
It unfortunately proved a lot of theories.
I didn't want to watch any more of one game after halftime, and then I realized I was the one that had to talk about it. So I had to finish watching it. And I was like, torture me.
Yep, I finished watching it. I just had a lot of drinks.
I don't drink, so if I drank beer, I would have been hammered by the end of that game.
Yeah, I kept drinking afterwards in hopes to forget. I didn't forget.
News. So let's start with the first couple, because there are some first couple of things to start off with. The college football playoffs are down to 2 teams now. Michigan beat Alabama, and Washington beat Texas. So we are going to have Michigan-Washington as the college football overall thing. Personally, I'm kind of rooting for Washington, but that's because Michigan is Big Ten, and I hate Michigan, so...
I have no qualms, ifs, ands, or buts. I'm just watching the QBs play. Because that's all I care about is the draft.
Yeah,
which QB looks good.
Well, and that's, it's J.J. McCarthy versus Penix Jr., which I really want Penix to fall to us. That would be amazing.
So, it might be just recency bias, but I watched 2 games of Penix Jr. It might have been because they were early season, but man, it was a little rough.
Yeah, but if you watch some of his later stuff, that's
what I was saying. I didn't watch the playoff game, which I wanted to, but I didn't. I will watch this championship game because I want to see how he performs. Because I heard technically just yesterday he played really well.
Yeah, he did. He dropped dimes everywhere, and he's got one of their receivers. I think his name is Romeo. He's really good too, and it's probably a first round pick. If you want my opinion. But we will.
All I know is that what I saw was a little concerning, and so I now want to rewatch
coming up after the season.
Coming
up after the season, we'll have our rewards show or our awards show, and we will also
rewards show.
Awards.
Who are we giving money to? I want that money.
I want that money. We will do an awards show, and we will do our postseason 1 to 32. And we will do our, we will begin sometime just before the draft. We will do a breakdown of all the players we think and where they could go, and then we will do our own first-round mock draft. Week or so before the draft, we'll actually put that out. And then we will do a 1 to 32 post-draft, and then coming into the season, pre-game, I don't know if we'll do one preseason or not, but I think post preseason.
Probably do it after post preseason.
So we'll do one more 1 to 32 post preseason. That's kind of the gig right now. We will see how that goes. I have no idea how that's going to look or what it's going to feel like. We'll see when it frickin' happens. Okay, frickin' frick, man, frickity frick,
frickin' frick.
All right. What else do we want to talk about?
I don't know, I feel like most of the news we'll get to as we
most of the news, but there's a few pieces. For anybody out there who's a football fan, Birmingham City has fired Rooney after 15 games. Didn't make it a whole long time, did he?
Nope.
And Nadal has returned to singles play in tennis and won at Brisbane. All right. Outside of that, everything else is football news, so let's talk about it real quick, because there are some fun things here. First off, Bill Belichick has said, we're on to New York. Focus is only on the Jets. He's not worried about his job security. Because he already knows he's done at the end of the season.
Yeah, so he's got to know that he's done.
He's got to know that he's done. Now, McVay has promised that he will be back in 2024. So he will maintain...
Which we kind of expected.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to fire him. I thought it was more probable that he might ride off into the sunset on his own. Because I know he mulled that...
a contract through 2024, so
and I don't think he's wants to buy himself out of it.
No.
So, outside of that, the only other really big news is that the Jets have cut Dalvin Cook. They are going to allow him to seek a contract to join a contender. I don't know that there's any contender that has a hole at running back that wants him.
Chiefs?
I mean, maybe. He'd have to take a pay cut.
Or he can do a dual back, I guess, with his brother in Buffalo, maybe?
Again, maybe. I don't know
why they would. I'm just being completely honest, but I'm just saying that it could
I
happen.
don't know either. Maybe the Bucks?
I don't know if they're contenders enough. They might still be
and
out
I'm
of
not
the playoffs,
sure they are,
so.
and that's the thing. And we thought Dolphins at the beginning of the year because he's from Florida, but they definitely don't need him.
They don't need him, no.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the Niners because you've got CMC out right now?
Maybe. But I don't even know if you need that with Deebo Samuel doing all the fucking running at the back end.
It's just weird. So, we'll have to see how that goes. And speaking of injuries, since we brought that up, let's dig into the injuries, shall we? Because there's been quite a few this week. We already mentioned CMC is going to be held out as a precaution for Week 18. He has a calf strain. They will not play him. So that means he'll get this week and then the first round of the playoffs to fully recover for round 2. Where I assume they'll play him again.
Oh, definitely.
Now, we do have 3 people who are completely done for the season. Marquise Brown has some kind of heel injury, and they have placed him on IR. Mm-hmm. So Hollywood Brown, I mean, the Cardinals aren't going to make the playoffs. It makes sense. Get healthy for next year.
Yep.
See if they can re-sign him in the offseason. Jamal Agnew for the Jacksonville Jaguars has suffered a leg fracture. And he will be out for the rest of the season. And keeping in the theme with that family, Bradley Chubb has suffered an ACL tear.
Yay!
Will be out for the rest of the season. So just like his brother, Nick, Bradley is out with, I believe, the same injury.
I thought Nick blew out his fucking knee completely, but maybe I don't remember.
I don't remember if it was a full knee or just the ACL.
I thought it was the knee, but I don't remember.
The whole thing
I thought it snapped backwards or something.
Both of them have massive knee injuries now.
Yeah.
Now, the non-out all season, because there are a few of these. Taylor Heineke suffered an ankle injury in their game, in their loss. Mm-hmm. He is considered day-to-day. Alvin Kamara suffered an injury in their win. He is considered day-to-day. And Devonta Smith suffered an ankle injury in their loss and is considered day-to-day. Did I miss anything big?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah. All right.
Unless, of course, you want to talk about the refs missing their brains, but I don't know if
that's that's kind of a permanent injury, and they still seem to try to do their job with that injury, so...
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, then.
It's a permanent injury for sure.
Let's then talk about... We got to start. Let's start it. Week 17. One more week to go, and the refs still can't find the rules book with both hands.
That's because they're whipping their ass with the other hand.
Then taking money with the free hand.
Exactly.
Okay. We do want to point out that if anybody from NFL head office ever watches this video, we are saying that tongue-in-cheek for legal reasons only.
For legality reasons, we aren't actually criticizing anyone, even though we're definitely possibly might be sort of.
No, we're allowed to criticize. We are not insinuating that the refs are definitively on the take. We do not have knowledge to that. Yes. Outside of that, your refs suck.
They're probably taking money, but we don't know for sure they're taking money.
All right.
More likely gambling money, if anything, to be honest. We'll get there.
So I will start because I did take the Thursday game this week, and it was Jets at Browns. We both picked the Browns. We both were correct. Browns win 37-20. The Joe Flacco revenge train rolls on. And it rolled.
I think the only way to true revenge until he beats the Ravens, which
after that game this week, I don't know if that's possible anymore.
I don't know if that's possible. We'll get there too. I got that game on my slate.
Yeah, you got that game on your playbook. So, talking about this game, both offenses went right down the field. They went bing, bing, bing. And then after that, it was one-sided as all heck. It got a little better in the second quarter, but I mean, the halftime, it was one of the highest scoring halves we've seen this season. And I literally said, I think the Jets are looking for a white flag.
Yeah.
And then the second half happened, and there were a total of 6 points scored. 2 field goals, 1 from each team. Like, the first half was all action. The second half, like, you could go ahead and take a nap.
Pretty much.
Nobody scored until the fourth quarter. However, let's talk stats a little bit. Simeon, 32 of 45, 261 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Hall, 13 carries, 84 yards. That's not bad. He also did have a 21-yard pass that he got a touchdown on the opening drive. And Garrett Wilson, 5 receptions, 50 yards. I mean, not a bad set of stats for them, especially against that Browns defense, but you can definitely tell all the fireworks came in the first half, and they had nothing in the second half. This game, it went up 20-7 fairly quickly, but that's because their kicker missed an extra point.
Of course.
Actually, very quickly, it was 27-7, and I was looking at it going, wow, and I think that's about the time I texted you, wow, the Jets just need to wave a white flag. Can they throw in a towel? Right after I said that, Flacco made one of his only mistakes. So let's talk about his stats. 19 of 29, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. That pick was returned for a touchdown. Basically, he was trying to throw Jermaine Johnson off of him. He pumped, and then he threw the ball anyway, and Johnson didn't bite on the pump and jumped up and just literally snatched it right as soon as he threw it and went 37 yards for a touchdown. I was like, why did you throw that? Throw it higher up. Get it out of bounds. What are you doing?
Doing Joe Flacco things.
Yeah, still thinking he could do something from nothing. I mean, he would come back and throw a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown, like, right after that, so.
Yeah. Again, Joe Flacco things.
Anyway, Ford, 12 carries, 64 yards, and Njoku, 6 receptions, 134 yards. He had a huge first quarter and then kind of went silent. Like, almost all of his damage was done in the first quarter. This result, in my opinion, was never in doubt. It was just a matter of how many points the Browns were going to put up. And in the end, literally the Browns put up 428 yards of total offense. So, while holding the ball several minutes less. That should tell you everything you need to know, okay? Outside of that, I mean, you also had the fact, let's see here. Garrett had yet another sack. They sacked him twice. They picked him off once, and it was a touchdown. Hickman grabbed the ball and took it in for a touchdown. There were a lot of fumbles by the Browns as well, and I think that's what stalled them out a lot in the second half. So that's all I really got to say about that game. The Jets are just kind of playing out the string and looking forward to next season.
Fair enough. Sorry,
next game
Bird wants scritches, and I'm scritching him with my nose.
Hi, Birdie.
Yep. All right. Well, obviously, Saturday game we had Lions versus the Cowboys. Lions get screwed 19-20.
You would pick the Lions, I had picked the Cowboys. I win, but I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, we'll talk stats, and then we'll talk about and we'll talk about that 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with stats. We had Jared Goff going 19 for 34, not great for Goff. 271 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions, one of them in the red zone. Not great. David Montgomery had 14 runs for 65 yards and 1 touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had 15 runs for 43 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Sam Laporta for 7 receptions, 84 yards. Jameson Williams with only 2 receptions, but 69 yards. Nice. Enifuatu Melifuano had 1 interception. Again, so now back-to-back interceptions for that guy in weeks. Now on to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, 26 of 38, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 run attempts for 5 yards, and 1 fumble. Tony Pollard had 16 rushing attempts for 49 yards. Not great. CeeDee Lamb had 13 receptions for 227 yards, 1 touchdown, and he did fumble the ball, technically. Didn't lose it, but it was still a fumble. Brandon Cooks, 5 receptions, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jordan Lewis and Donovan Wilson, there we go, Donovan Wilson each had 1 interception off of Goff. So, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Obviously, first off, Jared Goff didn't play his best game. They could have won if he played a little better, didn't turn over the ball with those 2 interceptions. That's fair. And, at the same time, letting CeeDee Lamb get 227 yards is also going to lose you probably the game. But with that said, well, those are 100% true, that the Lions had a chance to win by not allowing Lamb to cook as hard as he did, by not turning over the ball, by having Goff play a little better than he did. Those are all true. However, we still need to talk about the fact that 2-point conversion was a fucking sham. It was an absolute sham. So, they line up for the 2-point conversion. A lineman runs out, 68. Decker gets the touchdown, 2-point conversion's good. Or is it? All of a sudden there's yellow flag on the floor. Illegal touching by 68. Meaning, according to the refs, he never reported as eligible. Now, I right away was like, that looks suspicious to me, especially considering the fact that flag came out so fucking late. Then, there was a video that surfaced later, showing that not only did Decker go up and talk to the ref, Penei Sewell was talking to the ref, and 70, the person that they said was the person that reported, was only just running onto the field. Yeah, you didn't even talk to the ref at that point. He kind of walked past the ref, and some people say that might have been something, but let's break down what actually happened. 68 went up to report. Penei Sewell was also there. This was all planned, by the way. Like this, Dan Campbell came out and said that the point was to confuse the Cowboys in case they didn't hear, because what you don't know is whenever a lineman reports, it gets announced by the refs, and the defense then knows eligible receivers, or a new eligible receiver, an eligible lineman. So the idea was to have as many people run by the ref, not necessarily reporting, but making it seem like they might be reporting to confuse the Cowboys in case they didn't hear the announcement over the loudspeakers. This was intentional. The only person that actually officially reported, which you can see where he even makes the gesture, was 68 Decker. Decker was the only one who actually, when I'm reporting, here, me, this number reporting. That's the sign. Other people walked past and were talking to the ref in an attempt to potentially confuse the Cowboys as to which one was reporting. Unfortunately, it seems like that also confused the refs, which it shouldn't have. And they reported as 70 being reported, not 68. And later, decided to dig their own fucking grave because the head ref who was doing the reporting said prior to this, 70 had reported 2 times in the past during the game. And so people are going, what, did you just assume because 70 came on the field he was the one reporting? Because that's what it seems like you're telling me now, which is fucking stupid. Like, it's your job to listen to who the actual person is reporting and ignore everything else. That is your job. That is the one thing you're supposed to do. And you fucked it up. Now, what I will say is almost everybody that I know in consensus has looked at this clip, has heard what they've had to say, and went, yeah, the refs fucked up. And supposedly, this isn't 100% true because we haven't heard it confirmed, but supposedly, the NFL has also went, wow, yeah, that was a pretty bad fuck up, and maybe may have leaked information to Pelissero that reffing crew will no longer be reffing any playoff games this season. Which, okay, if that's true, there's some accountability. We have to hear a confirmation if that's true to know 100%, or just I assume we can also just watch the playoff games and find out if that crew plays or not. But I don't even think that's enough, because that's a major fuck up, especially at the very end of a game where the game is literally on the line. People are starting to call it rigged. I don't think it's necessarily rigged, but I will say that if somebody had some money on that game, it wouldn't be that hard to say I accidentally fucked up that at the very end. You know, I'm not saying that's happening. Not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying I can understand people who might say that. I think it's just a bad fuck up by the refs. A really, really bad fuck up by the refs. And frankly, for somebody who's been reffing for as long as they have, especially the guys in the white hats, who was actually the one that was getting the reporting, by the way, he should 100% know better. He should. And the fact that he fucked it up so bad, I mean, maybe he shouldn't be wearing the white hat if it's gonna be that bad.
I agree. His name, by the way, is Brad Allen.
Brad Allen, yeah, he's been in the league for a while.
Yep. Now, I will also say that Dan Campbell was apparently told multiple things about this from Brad Allen. One of the things that he came out and said was that Allen initially said that the flag was out there because more than one lineman tried to report as eligible, and more than one lineman cannot report as eligible, which is utter bullshit. If you read,
like I said,
the rule book, it actually states that there is no limit as to how many people can report as eligible. Your entire offensive line could report as eligible if they want to.
And on top of that, only one person actually reported as eligible. Several people came by and acted like they were going to report as eligible, but never actually reported as being eligible.
Exactly. And so, ineligible touching, they move back, they try it again, fails, but
there was a offsides on, who was that? It was big name. I forget what his name is now. Big name. Parsons. Yeah, it was on Parsons. So he was offsides. They get another try. Ultimately fails. So this was at the point where you could argue that you got screwed, you tried again, got the flag, maybe you should just kick the extra point, take this to OT, and see if you can win there. Again, I'm not disagreeing that the Lions did lose the game. They had options to win. Don't let CeeDee Lamb cook his bed. Don't throw 2 interceptions, especially late in the game. Don't play a little better. Maybe after you get screwed the first time, people would still be talking about it, but go for that extra point. Potentially, you get the ball back and you win the game right away. You just don't know. And now we're never going to know. So, the Lions had opportunities. They definitely made enough mistakes to lose. And the fact that the Cowboys even gave them a chance at the end of the game to potentially even win the game, I mean, the Cowboys, if they hadn't thrown it on second fucking down and gave them pretty much a free timeout for the Lions, that game might have been very much over before that point. So, we can't just look at this one instance and go, this is the reason they lost. Because there was a lot of other reasons. But this is definitely one of those moments where you go, they could have won if the refs didn't fuck it up. And that's the problem where everyone's gonna nitpick this, because they're going to say the Lions got screwed by the refs, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lions could have equally played better to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%. Now, I'm also going to come out and say something else. Because it's bothering me now. Because CeeDee Lamb in this game fell victim to the dreaded fumble it out of the end zone rule.
He did.
And now, all of a sudden, there's a huge bunch of hubbub about changing that rule. After Jefferson did it last year, there wasn't a huge hubbub.
No,
was that was last year or was it this year?
That was earlier this year.
After Jefferson did it this year, there was a bit of a hubbub, but nothing major. Now, all of a sudden, it's front page news because Jerry Jones is mad about it.
That doesn't surprise me, though. That's the Cowboys organization in general. They always get front page news for anything.
Yep.
The thing is, we've seen this happen to several other receivers as well over the last couple weeks. It isn't just Jefferson that did it earlier. I think he was the first I saw do it this year. But there's been a couple since then. Finally, CeeDee Lamb had it happen again.
Yep. All right. Moving. Are you done? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
It.
Okay.
That's it.
Moving along, do you want to go through your next game, or do you want me to grab the next one?
We can go back and forth. It's fine.
All right. So I'll grab the next one, which on my list is Patriots-Bills.
That game was closer than it had any right to be.
That game was much closer than it had any right to be. But that's Bills football for you. We both picked the Bills, and we were both correct by a touchdown.
Yay.
Well, actually, only by 6 points. So 2 field goals. 27.
Yeah, technically 2 field goals.
Bills won 27-21. This game was a lot closer than it had any right to be, especially when you look at the fucking stat line.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is absolutely zero reason why the Patriots were in this game. Let's talk about it, though. Bailey Zappi, 16 of 26, 209 yards, 3 interceptions. Zeke, 14 of 39 and a touchdown. Harris, 2 receptions, 54 yards. That does not sound like a team that put up 21 points. And you would be correct. The only reason they put up 21 points was Jalen Reagor, whom we cut, had a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Bailey Zappi ran a 17-yard touchdown in, and then Elliott scored. That's it.
Yep.
And I went, what the crap? This game was so badly played. It was probably one of the worst games, although there's one that is worse in my opinion, but it was probably, between both teams involved in it, it was just a slop fest. Because Allen was only 15 of 30 for 169 yards and a pick. Cook, 16 carries, 48 yards, and Kincaid, 4 receptions for 87 yards. I will add that Allen also ran one in, so Zappi did run 5 times for 37 yards, and Allen did run 11 times for 44 and 2 touchdowns. He could not, for the life of him, throw one in, but he was able to run him in.
Where the fuck was Stephon Diggs?
He has been notably absent for several
I was gonna say several weeks. Where the fuck's he been?
several weeks again. Stephon Diggs, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 26 yards. Diggs let's go through it because I think it's funny to me. Because I'm weird. So, the last time that Diggs had a 100-yard game was October the 15th.
Yeah.
Versus the Giants.
It's been 2 months.
Yep. Months. The next game, 6 of 12 for 58. At Tampa, 9 of 12 for 70. At Cincy, 6 of 7 for 86. Denver, 3 of 5 for 34. The Jets, 4 of 8 for 27. The Philadelphia Eagles, 6 of 11 for 74. Kansas City, 4 of 11 for 24. Dallas, 4 of 5 for 48. Chargers, 5 of 8 for 29. And now 4 of 7 for 26.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
I have no idea. I'm not even going to guess. But that's the last time that he had a 100-yard game was October the 15th.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah, and I don't know if its teams are tripling him. I don't know. But his decline in production definitely coincided for a while there with the Bills' decline in wins.
Yeah, that's true.
Back when we thought that they were going to be out of it, that's about the time that it just all went to crap for him.
Yep. They're starting to claw back, but yeah.
I mean, they are clawing back, and in fact, next week's game against Miami, whoever wins the AFC, or the AFC East, or whatever it is.
The AFC East, yeah.
Yep. Whoever wins that wins the AFC East. Now, the sad part for Buffalo is if they lose, they miss the playoffs. If Miami loses, they're still in.
Yep, they'll make wild card.
Yeah, they'll make the wild card. Outside of that, they did the Patriots sacked Allen once. It was Alex Austin who had the interception, and they only fumbled once. Farrell Brown fumbled and lost the ball. On the other side of things, Josh Allen fumbled twice, but they were recovered by, I believe, Osiris Torrance and Connor McGovern, and Benford got Farrell Browns. They sacked Zappe 3 times. They picked him off 3 times. 2 of them to Rasul Douglas. Thanks, Packers. He took 1 back for a touchdown, and Ed Oliver actually managed to, the defensive tackle, managed to pick him off too. So, overall, that was a very sloppy game. I would not recommend anybody going back and watching it because it was not a game to be enjoyed. It was a game to forget for both teams. Buffalo, you cannot play like that next week if you want to make the playoffs.
Oh, hell no.
All right, your turn.
All right. Let's do Dolphins versus the Ravens. Dolphins get smacked by the Ravens 19-56.
I'm
pretty sure we both picked the Ravens.
We did not.
Really?
We did not. You picked the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah,
I picked the Ravens. I win.
Never know. I was going off of Tyreek Hill. Figuring that maybe nobody could cover him, I guess. Well, let's look at the stats, because surprisingly, the stats are a little weird. So, let's go ahead. Tua Tagovailoa, we had 22 for 38, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 2 rushing attempts for 14 yards. Overall not bad. The 2 picks is where it gets a little, not so great. Devon Achane, 14 rushing for 107 yards and 4 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he tried his best, but wasn't enough to carry this team on his back. Tyreek Hill, 6 receptions for 76 yards, which is normally a good for wide receivers, but it's a little quiet for Tyreek. Then we have Durham Smith for 3 receptions for 54 yards. And that's pretty much it for the Dolphins. Unfortunately, they just really couldn't get shit moving. And when they did, it wasn't into the end zone.
No.
But let's talk about the Ravens, because this is where things get a little interesting. Lamar Jackson, 18 of 21. They didn't ask him to throw very much, but when he did, he got 321 yards for 5 touchdowns. Lamar thinks. What?
Also, there was a stupidly good, ridiculous catch by Beckham again.
Oh, yeah.
Only ball he caught all game, and I watched and I went,
he caught all day.
How the did he get that?
Yep. Lamar also had 6 rushes for 35 yards as well, which, again, normally sometimes you see that more, so it's like Lamar is just really good at passing now for some reason. Okay. Gus Edwards had 16 rushing attempts for 68 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 fumble. Justice Hill had 3 rushing attempts for 48 yards and 5 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown. Surprisingly, that guy's starting to come out as being pretty damn good, like as a dual threat, which surprises me a little bit. I was not expecting that.
I don't think anybody was.
No. Zay Flowers had 3 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown. Zay Flowers is proving that he is the deep ball threat that everyone thought he was going to be. I mean, he's not great at contested catches, but man, if he's speedy, if he's open, Lamar's going to get it to him. Like, that's pretty much it.
It's beginning to look, he's a little like Tyreek Hill. If he can get behind the defense at all and you can throw the ball out to him, he's gone.
He's gone, exactly. Rashad Bateman had 4 receptions for 54 yards. Isaiah Likely had 2 receptions for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. Honestly, I think they have their Mark Andrews 2.0. Whenever Mark Andrews is done, Likely is slotting into that spot perfectly.
And nobody would have considered that likely at the beginning of the season.
God, that's horrible. You should be ashamed of yourself, sir.
I am not. I love myself for that.
Roquan Smith and Geno Stone each had 1 interception off of Tua Tagovailoa. Which is funny to see hearing Roquan Smith, because that guy feels like he's been around for fucking ever, and he's still there.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's kind of how the game went. It was surprising, because it was, you would look at Lamar's stat line for how many times he threw it, and you'd be like, how did they get so many points? Because he only had to throw it a couple times every fucking time they touched the ball to get a touchdown. Like,
yeah, there was no defense.
There was no defense.
Miami just did not have a defense.
Which, considering the fact Miami up to this point had great defense, they just got smothered and ran over by the Ravens.
I will say they've had 2 major lapses. This one and then against the Bills. Right after they hung 70 on the Broncos, the Bills came in and hung like 56 on them or something.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where the Dolphins' defense is pretty good until they come up against an offense that's just way better, and then they get smoked. And that's kind of what this felt like. It just felt like they had no answer for anything Lamar was doing. They basically couldn't touch him. They couldn't cover Zay Flowers for the life of them. And then of course, you look at the rushing attempts, and you're like, between Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, they basically didn't have to throw it all the time. They could just run it, and Lamar long bombs it. We're good. Like, that's basically what the game plan was, and it worked out.
Simplest game plan of all time, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah, let Lamar do what Lamar does, and there you go. So that's all I gotta say about that game. To be honest, it was a little sad to watch, because I was like, when I first saw this lineup, I was like, oh, that's gonna be a good game between 2 high-powered offenses. And the Ravens went, no, we have a really good defense too. Get fucked. All right, fair enough. Moving on.
Fair enough. Moving on. All right. I have nothing to add to that, by the way. That was absolutely a destruction of a team. I've never seen, it's very rare to see one-sided masochistic poundings like that.
Oh, yeah. Especially between 2 teams that are, playoff-bound teams.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Next game that I have, let's do Raiders at Colts. I picked the Raiders, you picked the Colts, you beat me by 3. 23-20. Colts keep their slim playoff hopes alive. And in fact, let's talk about that real quick, because the AFC South comes down to this week. Because the Colts will play the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
And the the Jags play the Titans. Now, the Colts and Texans are going to play on Saturday. And whoever wins that game has to wait for the result from the Jags-Titans game. Because if the Jags win, they win the AFC South. If the Jags lose, whoever wins between the Colts and Texans wins the AFC South. I would not have expected that to be the scenario coming into this season.
Nope, but this is where we're at.
This is apparently where we're at. Anyway, let's talk about this game, Raiders-Colts. By the way, Raiders, you need to do everything in your power to hire Antonio Pierce and take that acting head coach off of his title and make him a head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic coach for you guys. Let's talk stats, and then we'll talk the game. Aiden O'Connell, 30 of 47, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm a little upset about the amount of times he had to throw, but almost 300 yards? Okay. White, 20 carries, 71 yards. Devontae Adams doing everything in his fucking power to will this team to a victory. 13 receptions, 126 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Then he had that catch at the end of the game, 1-yard little pass from O'Connell with 43 seconds left. I don't know how he caught that. I saw that happen. I went, what in the world?
Yep.
Now, Minshew, 15 of 23, much more economical. 224 yards and a touchdown. Taylor, 21 carries, 96 yards and a touchdown. And Pierce, 1 reception, 58 yards and a touchdown. That's a guy who is coming on as a deep ball threat.
He's been a little inconsistent for me, but we'll see if he can continuing to be more consistent.
Outside of... Now, when I talked about Adams having 13 receptions, he was also targeted 21 times.
Yeah.
There were a lot...
trying to get him the ball.
Yeah, they were trying to get him the ball, high volume. I don't know that it worked as well as they wanted it to. Jacoby Myers, 10 targets, 6 receptions for 56, and he just kind of goes down the hill from there. O'Connell did a lot of good things in this game, but I feel like he needs to do more. But he's a rookie, so I don't know that he can. I'd like to see him next season and see if he progresses. Now, they did sack Minshew once. They did not pick him off at all. The Colts, Taylor, as we mentioned, ran for 96 yards. He also had a catch for 8 yards. Not great, not horrible. Could have been worse. He did fumble, but it was recovered by Pittman. So we don't have to worry too much about that. One little blemish on that. Josh Downs also caught two balls, only targeted twice, but 2 of 2 for 53. And Pittman was 5 of 7 for 46. Overall, a lot of that could have been worse. They did get to O'Connell twice, but they also didn't pick him off. So overall, this game was a lot closer than it had any right to be, and I think that's what we not that it had any right to be. I think we both expected it to be a good, close game. The Raiders from the beginning of this season would have gotten run over. The Raiders under Antonio Pierce are playing a lot harder, and you can tell there's a distinct difference in how much the team is bought into what he is doing.
Absolutely.
Which is why I'm telling Davis right now, Mark Davis, hire this guy.
Yeah, don't make the same mistake you did last time. Like, you should have hired the last guy as your head coach. Don't make that same mistake. Make this your interim head coach, your actual head coach. Because I think, honestly, he's earned it. He's won you a couple games, and he's, on top of that, made almost all of your losses fairly competitive.
I 100% agree. He's made almost everything super competitive. And, this was a competitive game. If this had been a McDaniels defense or a McDaniels game, they would have rolled over and just died.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So, I honestly feel like this team is a lot better under Pierce.
Oh, 100%, yep. No question.
Oh, you can see it on the field when they play, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Even when they win in the locker room, you can see the locker room videos where they're just far happier.
All right, your turn.
All right, let's talk Falcons versus the Bears. Falcons lose to the Bears 17-37. Man, that's not something I would have expected to talk about, but here we are. The Bears actually maybe kind of good.
We both
And
picked the Bears, by the way.
we
Both
did, but
correct.
it's still weird. I don't know. Let's talk about it. So, Taylor Heineke, 10 for 29. Oof. 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, 4 rushing attempts for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. Yeah, honestly, like, I get that he got injured, but, like, still, 10 for 29 is fucking horrible. Like, that's just not good.
Abysmal.
Desmond Ritter comes in, obviously, in replacement at the very end for Taylor Heineke. 3 for 4, 17 yards, and 1 interception. Yay! Good job, Desmond Ritter. Bijan Robinson had 15 rushing attempts for 75 yards, 1 fumble, and 3 receptions for 11 yards. Tyler Algier had 5 rushing attempts for 13 yards and 1 reception for 75 yards and a touchdown. There you go, Tyler. There's your touchdown. Drake London then had 4 receptions for 56 yards. And that's where everything ends for the Falcons. Unfortunately, they did a lot more bad things than they did good things. You know, you throw away the ball 4 times. 17-37 makes a little bit more sense.
Don't throw the ball to Drake London. Got it.
Pretty much.
If you watched our last video, you get that joke.
Give the ball to Bijan and not to Drake. Got it. You can do both. No, not possible.
Not possible. That's stupid. You're stupid.
Justin Fields, 20 for 32, 268 yards, 1 touchdown, and 11 running attempts for 55 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble, unfortunately. Khalil Herbert, 18 rushing attempts for 124 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 receptions for only 5 yards. Roshan Johnson had 7 rushing attempts for 21 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 receptions for 38 yards. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, they love to use their running backs as catchers as well. Every single one. DJ Moore, 9 receptions, 159 yards, and 1 touchdown. Good job, DJ Moore. Robert Tonyan had 3 receptions for 40 yards, and Tyreek Stevenson had 2 interceptions, while TJ Edwards and Kyler Gordon had 1 interception each off of the Falcons. Yeah, this was not only the Bears' offense cooking, but it was the Bears' defense also cooking, and it was just... The fact that Falcons even had 17 points is kind of amazing, to be honest with you. Like, the fact they even got that. So this was just... Honestly, this was the Bears making their stamp again, just going, no, guys. We're still here. We're still good. Once we're actually fucking healthy. They won't make playoffs. But they're gonna... I think they're gonna be making a show for it next year.
Probably.
Also, they can knock the Packers out of the playoffs next week, and frankly,
I was going to talk about that, but yes.
Nothing would make me happier.
Oh, nothing would make me
Especially
happier.
considering the fact last year the Lions did it to the Packers. Oh, man, can you imagine 2 years in a row different division opponents? Let's go.
I'm a Bears fan this coming week just for that.
Just for that, exactly.
And I also have a hot potato involving the Bears.
So do I. What a surprise.
What a surprise. I wonder if we have the exact same one.
God, that would be funny. It's probably very similar.
I would guess that it is.
But I got nothing more to say to that.
Alrighty. Then I guess I have to move on to the Titans at the Texans game. We both picked the Texans. We're both right.
Jeez, really?
Texans win 26-3. The triumphant return of C.J. Stroud.
The Strouds have returned.
Now, I will say that Levis had to leave this game due to what is being called a foot injury, and his status is uncertain for next week.
Yep.
So Tannehill came in, went 16 of 20 for 168 yards. Henry, 12 carries, 42 yards. Hopkins, 7 receptions for 72 yards. Before he went out, Will Levis was 2 of 6 for 16 yards. Okonkwo also had 3 receptions for 34, and it kind of just goes downhill from there. Not a lot to talk about in terms of the Titans offense because they forgot to bring in offense to Houston.
Yeah, pretty much.
They also forgot to bring a defense. Stroud, 24 of 32 for 213 yards and a touchdown. Singletary, 16 carries, 80 yards. Nico Collins, 7 receptions, 80 yards. Also, Pierce ran 8 times for 16 yards. Woods did catch 4 balls before going out himself. Brevin Jordan, 2 catches with a touchdown. They did sack, between sacking Levis and sacking Tannehill, they got to the quarterback 6 times. Anderson Jr. got in twice.
He's starting to cook now.
Yeah, he was quiet to start the season, but he's starting to cook now. He's figuring it out, and that's just not fair at all. By the way, I will also point out that Fairbairn, 4 of 4. He also had a long of 51 yards. So, I mean, there's not much to say about this game other than the Texans are cooking with something, and they have a shot to win the division and go to the playoffs, which I would never have predicted. And if you go back and watch our predictions, I was not super high on them this year. I was like, they're going to need a year. They're going to be good next year. But this year, it's going to be a learning experience. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. Trust the process. And now, all of a sudden, right out the gate, they were like, forget the learning process. We're here to punch you in the mouth and take names.
Yeah, I think I was kind of in a similar position. I think I was a little higher up, thinking that they were going to do pretty well. I thought they were going to be kind of middling the pack, maybe fighting for a wild card spot. But that's kind of almost where they were at for a while. And then C.J. Stroud went out for a while, which did hurt them.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're better than what I expected, but they're closer to what I expected versus what you were expecting.
Yes. I believe you are correct.
It's probably the best way to put that.
Yes.
So,
right.
Yeah, I'm actually happy for them because they've been bad for a while, and they deserve to be good with somebody who doesn't like to touch people.
I remember back, even before that, the last time they were really good was back when they had, I don't even remember his name, Virginia. All I remember is he played quarterback at Virginia, Matt something or another.
Oh, Hasselbeck?
Not Hasselbeck.
You're not talking about Hasselbeck?
No, they never had Hasselbeck.
I thought they did for like a short time.
I don't know. Maybe they did. No, I'm talking about when they had, he was the backup to, who was the dude that got in trouble for the dogs? Vic. He was Vic's backup in Atlanta, and he played that year that Vic was out, and then they traded for him, and he quarterbacked that team forever with Andre Johnson as his primary wide receiver, and they had some good runs.
Yeah, all I can remember is Hasselbeck, and I think I know what you're talking about, and I know that's not who it is. I forget.
No, but he played at Virginia, and I remember when he got drafted. And I always thought he had good stuff in him, and then he got pulled to be a starter in the Texans landed. He played his butt off. And then, of course, it kind of all fell apart because the schemes became too well known and routes started getting jumped, and he went from really good to crap over the plane of like one season.
And then don't forget, they brought in Carr. Man, that worked out real well for him.
Carr was before him.
David Carr, that's what I'm saying.
David Carr was before him. Carr was their first. I think Carr was their first draft pick as a franchise.
It was.
Now, I won't blame Carr for that. I'm going to be honest with anybody who's a Texans fan on here. I don't blame Carr for all of that because he didn't have an offensive line and was sacked more than any quarterback in history.
Well, at the time, I don't know if that's still true. Is that still true?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
I know there's a couple. I know there's a couple.
I know there's a couple of contenders.
Yeah, I know there's a couple. Actually, I think even this year they got pretty close. So I don't know if he's still the most, but he's probably up there if you. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have much else to say about that game because there's not much to say about it. It was pretty much a one-sided beatdown by the Texans.
Yep. And we'll see if the Texans can manage to sneak their way into playoffs. Hopefully they can, because I would rather see them at this point than the Jaguars, who are, on life support at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of...
I was going to say, speaking of the Jaguars, let's talk about the Panthers versus the Jaguars, which, even though I made fun of them for being on life support, they did shellac the Panthers 0-26. Granted, there's the Panthers.
I will point out, we both picked the Panthers to win that game.
To be fair, the Panthers had come off of a good game, and the Jaguars looked like shit.
And they were going to have to start Beathard.
Now, also to be fair, the Jaguars still didn't look really all that great in this game either, but we'll talk about it. Even though they got 26 points, it still looked, it was still kind of rough for them. Anyways, all right, first let's talk about the Panthers, because boy, that was rough. Bryce Young, 19 of 32, 112 yards, and 1 interception. Little rough. Chuba Hubbard, 11 running attempts for 45 yards, and 4 receptions for 26 yards. Not great, not horrible. Miles Sanders had 2 rushing attempts for 10 yards and 2 receptions for 12 yards. Yeah, maybe it's time to let that one go. And then Adam Thielen had 6 receptions for 38 yards. Those were the only highlights that I could find stat-wise at all. And as you notice, those aren't exactly great either. Frankly, those are below average stats. The Panthers just couldn't get anything offensive moving whatsoever, and their defense didn't do enough. For CJ Beathard, was 17 of 24, 178 yards, had 3 rushing attempts for 24 yards. However, the show goes to Travis Etienne for 16 rushing yards, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 receptions for 16 yards. That's pretty much the highlight of this entire thing. And you might be asking, where did the other points come from? Good question. I assume it was from kickoffs, but I don't know. I couldn't find them. Was it field goals? Okay, I was like, I tried looking for them. I couldn't find them.
See here. I'm curious now.
Because that's only 14 points out of the 26. So unless the other, 12 points came from field goals, which I guess it could have, that's not great.
Brandon McManus, 4 field goals.
Yeah, well, that would be it then. So, yeah. I mean, the Jaguars didn't look great either. It was basically Travis Etienne and field goal time. That was it. Tank Bigsby had 10 rushing attempts for 32 yards. Evan Ingram had 6 receptions for 60 yards. Jamal Agnew had only 2 receptions for 53 yards, which we already covered why. Calvin Ridley had 4 receptions for 39 yards, and Antonio Johnson had the 1 interception off of Bryce Young. This was a boring game. Boring. Not only was it the Jaguars beating the Panthers, it was the Jaguars playing poorly beating the Panthers. It was just a bad game, and I have nothing else to say about it.
At this point, why would you have anything else to say about it?
I think I got myself pretty much across with boring.
I think you did too. Yeah. You done being bored?
Yeah, that's it. I got.
All right, let's talk about an exciting game, because this game that we're about to talk about is the upset of the week.
Oh boy, we're going to talk about that game?
Oh, we're going to talk about that game.
Oh boy, I was so happy.
Oh, everybody was happy about this one. We're talking about Cardinals at Eagles, and we both picked the Eagles, and we both were wrong. Cardinals
I'm okay with
it. Cardinals up and the Eagles 35-31. This was a very fun game to watch, unless you were an Eagles fan.
It was still kind of a fun game to watch, even if you were an Eagles fan, to be fair. Granted, you were probably mad at the very end, but,
it was a very fun game to watch. It was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot more action in this game than there had any right to be.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a Julio
Especially
Jones.
at the very end.
There was a Julio Jones sighting.
I didn't expect that, but
I didn't know he was still in the league.
Oh, I did. I knew that he was signed. I just thought he was still in the practice squad, but apparently not.
In fact, there were double Julio Jones sightings. He got 2 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah.
Again, not what I expected to say this year.
Julio Jones still in the league. Julio Jones getting 2 touchdowns. Wait, what?
What? Kyler Murray, 25 of 31, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Connor carrying the team, 26 carries, 128 yards, and a touchdown. And Greg Dortch, 7 receptions, 82 yards. Dortch. I love that game.
That's just a fun name.
That name is a fun name. Murray also ran 5 times for 24 yards. And Connor caught 1 pass for 5 yards. Trey McBride, 6 for 48. Michael Wilson, 4 for 35 and a touchdown. Michael Carter and Connor also caught the other touchdowns. Michael Carter, running back, 1 for 6, touchdown, and Connor 1 for 5, touchdown. Michael Carter also ran the ball 7 times for 61 yards. They would get to Jalen Hurts precisely 0 times, and Joey Blount would pick him off once. On the Eagles side, Jalen Hurts, 18 of 23, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. He also ran 8 times for 25 yards. DeAndre Swift, 13 carries, 61 yards. A.J. Brown, 4 for 53. Dallas Goedert, 5 for 47 and a touchdown. Julio Jones, 2 for 34 and 2 touchdowns. And it's just a bunch of nonsense from there. They would sack Kyler 1 time, and the interception was by Sidney Brown, and it was a 99-yarder for a touchdown, end zone to end zone. That one I was like, oh, Kyler, what are you doing? No. But in the end, it didn't matter.
Nope.
As the final pass that was picked off that Hurts got the interception on was a bomb into the end zone. Hail Mary. She didn't answer.
Nope.
This game was super duper fun, and it was in doubt all the way up because Connor scored with 32 seconds left on the clock. And it didn't look like it was going to be. If you watched the first half, you'd have gone, oh yeah, Eagles got this. Because the first half ended 21-6.
Yep.
And then came out the Cardinals, and they were like, we ain't losing, beach.
Yeah, that back half was insane.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts. And the Cardinals, it was like watching a team collapse in real time.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely collapsed, fell completely apart in the second half. I don't know what's wrong with the Eagles this year, but they got issues.
At least his backhand there starting to have issues.
And it's you know what's really funny? Who did the Cardinals lose to this year? The Giants. Who did they beat? The Eagles and the Cowboys. Huh? What is this team?
Yeah. They don't know what they are.
They don't know what they are. However, if they keep playing like this, I'll tell you one thing. This should give Arizona. Yeah, this should give Arizona fans a lot of hope for the future. And PJJ is starting to come along now and make a lot of good blocks and pull and do things. Connor looks really good for you guys right now. Look, I don't know what you're going to do in the draft, but you've got some potential options there. And if you want to go wide receiver, you can go wide receiver. But if you can keep Marquise Brown, you're pretty set on wide receiver. You could look at your offensive line. You could look at your defensive line. You could look at cornerbacks. There are all kinds of things you guys can do in the draft.
It's really funny how much I keep seeing Murray as being a trade destination for us, and I'm just like, Murray isn't going to get traded. Guys.
No, Murray. People are making stuff up.
I don't know why that's still a theory that's going to happen. Like, if he played bad, maybe. But the fact that not only is he playing good, but you can tell based on his press conferences and the way he does interviews now, he's also matured, which is a big plus.
It's AI generated content now.
It's gotta be,
and that's why you're seeing. That's why you're also seeing the Russell Wilson to Minnesota links, and I think a lot of those are assuming that not that we're going to trade for him, that he's going to get cut and we would sign him, and he would be cheaper to sign than Cousins. That is the assumption.
But he's not listen. Even if I have to pay Cousins $10 million more, I will take Cousins over Russell Wilson at this point for $10 million more.
Yeah, and it depends on what you're really trying to do, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
All right. I don't have much else to say about that except that one bird team flew and the other one crashed. And it was not the way we thought it was going to go.
Nope, but I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it, too. I know you hate Philadelphia.
I do. All right, let's move on then. Let's talk Rams versus the Giants. Man, that game was close. Rams win 26-25.
We both picked the Rams. We're both right.
Now, let's talk about the stats because there is some interesting stats here from both sides, actually. Matt Stafford was 24 of 34, pretty decent, 317 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, unfortunately. I think that alone changes how this game goes, actually. Kyrie Williams, though, had 20 rushing attempts for 87 yards, not quite as good as you'd hope for, but he got 3 touchdowns off of it and 2 receptions for 14 yards. So, yeah, sure, I guess if you want to rush that many times, getting only 87 yards is a little unfortunate, but if you're going to get 3 touchdowns off of it, I mean, not much anybody can say about it. Puka Nacua still trying his best, 5 receptions for 118 yards and 2 rushing attempts for 19 yards. Demarcus Robinson had 6 receptions for 92 yards and had 2 fumbles. Oof. Tyler Higbee had 6 receptions for 62 yards, and Cooper Kupp was surprisingly quiet with only 4 receptions for 27 yards. So that's a little weird to see, but if Puka Nacua is going off, I guess not both of them could go off at the same time all the time. Jordan Fuller did get 1 interception for the Rams. Now, let's look at the Giants, because this is where things really scare me a little bit for the Giants. Tyrod Taylor, 27 of 41. 41 for Tyrod Taylor. Man, that's unfortunate. 319 yards, though. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 6 rushing attempts for 40 yards. Here's the sad part. That was your top rusher, your QB, Tyrod fucking Taylor. Because next on the list is Saquon Barkley with 12 attempts for 39 yards and 3 receptions for 19 yards. Not good enough. Wan'Dale Robinson surprisingly played pretty decently, 6 receptions for 55 yards and 1 rushing attempt for 24 yards. And then, of course, somebody we haven't talked about very much, Darius Slayton, 4 receptions for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. Didn't see that coming.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
Yeah, right? Darren Waller, 5 receptions for 51 yards, and Daniel Bellinger for 4 receptions for 39 yards. Yeah, this is one of those games where the Rams probably should have closed this out a lot sooner, but unfortunately they were a little haphazard with the interception and fumbles, which ultimately led to the Giants even having a chance at this game. Mm-hmm. But it's still, even looking at the stats, you can tell, yeah, this was definitely a Rams victory, and the Giants tried their best with what they were given, but just wasn't quite enough.
No, was not quite enough. Wasn't good enough. They tried.
Yep.
When I saw that score, by the way, I looked at it and I went, wait, what? Are we sure?
Yeah, exactly. Missed extra points, by the way. That's why it was 26-25. That's also why it was a weird score.
I watched that, and I got to see parts of that, and I was just like, what is going on? I did see some really good catches by Nacua, though.
Oh, yeah, Nacua did well. Kyrie Williams had good rushing attempts for those touchdowns. Like, they just happened to be short yardage, which is why he didn't get a lot of yards per carry. But he still played well. Most of the Rams' offense played well outside of Kupp. So, frankly, this was pretty much what we expected, or pretty close to what we expected, outside of the Giants playing better than I think we expected. But that's about it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. All right. Down the list. Unless you have anything else to say?
Nope, I'm good.
Niners at Commanders. We both picked the Niners. We're both right. Niners win 27-10. Niners have clinched the first overall seed in the NFC. We should point out that earlier when the Ravens beat the Finns, they clinched the first overall seed in the AFC. Yep. Let's talk about stats, and then we'll talk about this game, because it really is kind of a game of two halves. Brock Purdy, 22 of 28 for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mitchell, 17 carries, 80 yards and a touchdown. Ayuk, 7 receptions, 114 yards and a touchdown. McCaffrey, 14 for 64, and then went out with a calf injury. Let's see here. Debo also ran 3 times for 35. You had Debo also caught 5 balls for 37 yards and a touchdown. Kittle 3 for 29 and McCaffrey 4 for 27. He did not score in this game, which is unusual, but he also really he did not look like he was in a good way.
Gotcha.
So, they did get 1 sack, and the picks were both Charvarius Ward and Diamadore Lenore. On the other side, the Commanders, Sam Howell back in this game. 17 of 28, 169 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Why didn't you start Brissett?
Apparently decided they didn't want to.
Robinson Jr., 9 for 44. Antonio Gibson, 4 for 19. Terry McLaurin, 4 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Curtis Samuel, 3 catches, 33 yards. Robinson Jr., 4 catches, 32 yards. And it just goes downhill from there. They did sack Purdy once, but they couldn't do anything else to him. The only time they looked like they had a chance was in the first half, when Terry scored after Sly had kicked a field goal. And that made it 10-10, where it was a tie. The 49ers would kick a field goal with 19 seconds left on the clock to put themselves up 13-10, and after that it was all Niners in the second half. They turned it on, and they crushed him. They crushed them in the second half. They didn't allow a single score, and that's where everything went wrong for the Commanders. Look, Ron Rivera's done at the end of the season. We all kind of know that's coming. And we're all pretty sure they're going to draft a quarterback because it's pretty certain that Sam Howell is not the guy.
No.
I think
not
he
bad.
could be...
He's a good backup.
I think he'll be a really good backup, but I don't think he's capable of being a starter.
Nope.
So, and there's not much else to say about that. Congratulations, San Francisco, on locking up your number 1 overall seed. And like I said, they plan to rest CMC next week, so he's going to get at least 2 weeks off. Which means he'll probably be pretty ready to go by the time round 2 rolls around. Your turn.
Sounds good. All right, let's talk about Saints versus the Bucks. Saints win 23-13.
We both picked the Bucks. We were both wrong. To say that we were not expecting this.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints played a little better. The Bucks made some critical mistakes, so let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Derek Carr went 24 of 32 for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamal Williams had 19 rushing attempts for 58 yards and 4 receptions for 13 yards. Alvin Kamara had 10 rushing attempts for 45 yards. Jawan Johnson had 8 receptions for 90 yards and 1 touchdown. And Taysom Hill had 2 receptions for 30 yards and 1 touchdown. Jonathan Abram and Alante Taylor had 1 interception each off of Baker Mayfield. So, with that said, let's take a look at Baker Mayfield. 22 of 33, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, but those 2 interceptions, which really hurts. Rashad White, 11 rushing attempts for 42 yards, 4 receptions for 24 yards, and a fumble. Chase Edmonds had 3 rushing attempts for 16 yards and 5 receptions for 40 yards. Trey Palmer had 4 receptions for 84 yards, 1 touchdown, and also a fumble. Chris Godwin had 3 receptions for 81 yards and 1 touchdown, and Mike Evans had 3 receptions for 70 yards. Honestly, this game, on paper, doesn't look like it was that close, but it was much closer than you think off of, everything else. Frankly, Baker Mayfield doesn't have those turnovers. We don't have those fumbles. This game's a lot tighter, a lot closer. Unfortunately, Baker Mayfield's a bit of a gunslinger, so sometimes he's going to make those mistakes, and then those fumbles on top of it just really sank the dagger in, so to speak. Unfortunately, the Saints were able to capitalize enough times and secure their victory, 23-13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not exactly the best thing to have happen. Was not expecting, like this. The problem is, I don't know what the Saints are. I don't think the
No,
Saints know what they are.
the fact that they're even in it still is kind of crazy to me because they're so up and down. It hurts.
Yeah, and
They're so
they're
up and down.
really good one week and really crap the next. They're like a super bouncy ball. You never know where they're going to wind up next.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
And
much.
that's the biggest problem I have with picking the Saints in anything is I don't know what Saints team I'm going to see walk onto the field. Am I
Yeah,
going to see
also
a dominant Saints team like we saw against Tampa, or am I going to see a crap Saints team like we've seen half the season?
and the worst part is you just don't know who's going to play quarterback. Is Derek Carr going to play and then get injured in the first quarter again, and then all of a sudden he ain't playing no more? Like
And
he's been injured so
if it
many
is
times,
Derek
it's
Carr,
hard to
are
say.
you getting good Derek Carr or are you getting mediocre Derek Carr?
Yeah, exactly. You just don't know.
You really don't, and it's hard to watch. I'm going to be honest.
It is.
Got anything else to say about that game?
No, it was kind of boring overall, to be honest with you.
Alrighty. It kind of was. However, let's move along. Bengals at Chiefs. Chris picked the Bengals. I picked the Chiefs. I'm going to win that one 25-17. Now, I am going to go out here and say...
Oh my god, there are so many field goals.
There were so many field goals in this game. It was not the best played game.
No, it really wasn't.
1, 2, 3, 6 field goals from the Chiefs alone, and one more from the Bengals. Dude, 7 field goals.
Butker earned me 24 points as a kicker. As a kicker. That's unheard of.
Yeah. Butker was like, I'm just going to kick us to victory today.
That's and that's what happened. He just, if it wasn't for him getting those field goals, honestly, the Chiefs probably lose.
More than likely. All right. Jake Browning, though, 19 of 33. 197 yards and a touchdown. At least you didn't throw it away, buddy. You did get sacked 6 times. Mixon, 21 carries, 65 yards. Browning, 7 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Okay. Jamar Chase, 3 catches, 41 yards. Tanner Hudson, 3 for 38. Tyler Boyd, 2 for 29. I think the really sad part was T. Higgins caught 1 pass and left the game.
It's true.
Which I think really hurt them quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
They did sack Mahomes twice. They did not manage to pick him off. On the other side, Mahomes, 21 of 29. Very efficient. Well done. 245 yards and a touchdown. Took 2 sacks. Pacheco, look who's finally back and running the ball. Pacheco, 18 carries, 130 yards. Mahomes, 4 carries, 2 yards. Also, Rashee Rice, 5 receptions, 127 yards. Did not make it into the end zone, but is definitely establishing himself as a deep threat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's a very good deep threat. Travis Kelce, only 3 for 16. Isaiah Pacheco also caught 7 receptions for 35 yards and a touchdown. Pacheco put his stamp on this game. I will say that Mahomes also fumbled and lost it. Not good, Mahomes.
Nope.
Like we said, the Chiefs defense did sack him 6 times, and there were no interceptions. Look, this is a game I think the Chiefs have needed for a while. They needed to look halfway decent in a game. Now, did they look great? No. Did they look like they can win games? Yes. Which they haven't looked like that recently. They've been on a bit of a losing streak, and it hasn't helped, you know? So getting Pacheco back and watching Pacheco do Pacheco things was helpful. And I do think they're finally feeling the effects of not having a halfway decent receiver for Mahomes. Rice is getting better, but he was definitely not very good to start the season.
No.
But he's getting better, and he's finding that connection with Mahomes. I think sadly, I think Chris Jones is going to walk in the offseason. And the money they're going to save there is probably going to be used on a wide receiver.
More than likely, they'll probably draft at least one or two as well.
I would guess they're going to draft one. I don't know if they'll draft him in the first round, but it'll probably be second or third, would be my guess. Is
they should draft one in the first, but they probably won't.
They should, but they won't. They'll draft something unusual in the first. They always do. Maybe a defensive tackle to replace Jones when he walks.
Very possible.
Anyway, all of that being said, Harrison Butker is the real star of this team this week. And, you know, the Bengals are starting to fall off. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're not going to make the playoffs this year. I think they might have already been eliminated.
Yeah. I think they're technically on the edge, but not by much.
Yeah. Let me look real quick and just see, because I'm not 100%. No, they are eliminated.
They are now? Okay.
They are officially eliminated. Strangely enough, Pittsburgh is not.
We'll get there.
Should you go ahead and talk about that now?
I was waiting to see if you were done, but if you're done,
I am done.
Yes,
you can move along.
All right. Well, we got Steelers versus the Seahawks. Steelers win 30-23, but man, there was a lot of issues with this game, and we're gonna talk about it.
We both picked the Seahawks. We're both wrong.
So first, let's talk about the controversy, supposedly, with Steelers continuing to start Mason Rudolph, even though Pickett came out and said that he was perfectly healthy and ready to go. If that's true, that doesn't look good for the Steelers organization, and that certainly doesn't look good for why they would put in Rudolph, because Rudolph is only okay at best. I don't know why they wouldn't put Pickett back in. Pickett looked plenty good when he was playing well. But for some reason, they decided to stick with Mason Rudolph there this week. I don't know if that's because they wanted to rest Pickett some more. But Pickett didn't seem like he wanted to rest some more. So I don't know what's going on there. I guess we'll see how next week goes. Because if they continue sticking with Rudolph, then that tells you that they have no faith in Pickett, which would be really bad to send as a signal at all.
Or they're worried about him overall, and they just want him to get healthy.
Maybe. I don't know. It just doesn't look great, especially if they're not communicating that to him, because it sounds like that wasn't communicated to him. So, let's look at stats then. Mason Rudolph went 18 of 24, so they didn't ask him to do crazy. Nothing much, which is fine. He went 274 yards. Najee Harris had 27 rushing attempts for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, there's your star right there. Jalen Warren had 13 rushing attempts for 75 yards and another touchdown. So frankly, they just ran it down their gut. George Pickens had 7 receptions for 131 yards and 1 fumble. Deontay Johnson had 4 receptions for 76 yards and 1 fumble. Yeah, this was one of those situations where very clearly Steelers were able to move the ball. They were moving it pretty well, and then they'd have a little hiccup. But they'd move it well pretty most of the time. And the same thing can kind of be said about the Seahawks. So let's look at them. Geno Smith, 23 of 33, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 rushing attempts for 33 yards, and a fumble. Kenneth Walker had 10 rushing attempts for 53 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 receptions for 22 yards, and a fumble. DK Metcalf had 5 receptions for 106 yards. Noah Fant had 5 receptions for 59 yards. Zach Charbonnet had 5 receptions for 39 yards. And Jackson Smith-Njigba had 1 reception for 12 yards and a touchdown. So, this is one of those weird games where it really could have gone either way. They both played pretty well offensively and had nothing defensively, really. And that's kind of how the game went. Which is weird for the Steelers. Normally, you think the Steelers' defense is going to play better, and they really should have, but they played just well enough to keep the Seahawks from getting that last touchdown to try to tie up the game. So, Unfortunately, Steelers do walk away from that game with a victory, but I wouldn't call it a clean victory.
However, that does mean that Mike Tomlin's streak of not having losing seasons continues. 17 of them now. Blood Demon, if anybody watches Tom Grossi. Why don't you go ahead and do Chargers Broncos, and we'll save the other game for dead last, because I think we're going to have a rant about it.
I'm not gonna rant about it, but I have things to say. And it's not like really ranty as much as it's more depression talk.
I definitely have things to say. I think we both do.
It feels like an Alcoholics Anonymous, where I just gotta like, hi, I'm Chris, I'm a Vikings fan. All right, let's talk about my last game. Then we have Chargers versus Broncos. Chargers lose to the Broncos 9-16. I don't know who picked what.
I believe we both picked the Broncos.
Oh, okay. So
we're both correct.
Surprisingly, the Chargers looked decent and yet still lost. So let's talk about it. Easton Stick, 24 of 38, not horrible. 220 yards and 5 rushing attempts for 31 yards. The problem is no touchdowns. And that's really where this hurt the most. They just could not punch that ball in. Austin Eckler had 13 rushing attempts for 46 yards and 1 fumble. Alex Erickson had 7 receptions for 98 yards. Gerald Everett had 4 receptions for 31 yards. And Quentin Johnston had 3 receptions for 29 yards. And frankly, the Chargers were able to move the ball. They just could not get a touchdown to save their life. They just couldn't. And all their points were just field goals, which is unfortunate. Now looking over at the Broncos, we had Jarrett Stidham, who went 20 of 32 for 224 yards and 1 touchdown. Jaleel McLaughlin had 8 rushing attempts for 44 yards and 3 receptions for 18 yards. Javonte Williams had 15 rushing attempts for 41 yards and 3 receptions for 17 yards. Little Jordan Humphrey had 2 receptions for 69 yards and 1 touchdown. And Jerry Jeudy had 3 receptions for 54 yards. And really, this game was pretty boring. It just came down to the fact that the Broncos were able to score the only touchdown in the game. And that's it. The Chargers are able to score even one of those field goals into a touchdown. They win instead. It was frankly a close game that unfortunately, the Broncos just came up a little bit on. Also, I find it very funny that Jarrett Stidham played just as well as Russell Wilson would have, which that's kind of freaking sad. But here we are. This is the world we live in. A world where Russell Wilson is not a great QB anymore. Your turn.
Apparently, a lot of people were mad about how that was handled, too.
Yeah, but at the same time, not completely unexpected. Restructure your contract. No, fine, you're benched.
All right, let's talk about Packers at Vikings. I did the unthinkable and picked the Packers. You picked the Vikings. I win 33-10.
Yay.
This was
lack of an offense or defense, frankly.
Lack of everything. But let's get into it. So let's talk about the Packers first, because Jordan Love went 24 of 33 for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. We couldn't stop him for anything.
It felt so weird because, in fact, we had such a good defense the last couple of weeks, and then
we didn't even touch him. We touched him only a couple of times. There were no sacks, though. He didn't even take a sack.
I couldn't understand how our defense the previous 3 to 4 weeks has been amazing, and then all of a sudden this week they just forgot how to play defense.
Aaron Jones, 20 carries, 120 yards.
Couldn't stop him either.
Jordan Love also ran a touchdown in. Yeah, we couldn't stop Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon, 7 carries, 27 yards. Bo Melton, 6 receptions, 105 yards and a touchdown. Jaden Reed, there's a name we've heard a lot this year. 6 receptions, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft, 6 receptions, 48 yards. Romeo Dobbs, 3 receptions, 28 yards. I mean, now I will say Sam Torrey fumbled and lost a fumble. Carl Brooks recovered one that we had. They did sack us 4 times. And I say us because there was more than one quarterback that we used in this game. And Corey Ballantine with the pickoff. We'll get to that in a minute here. On the Vikings side.
I'm very confused how the Packers defense was statistically so fucking terrible until this game.
So, we'll talk about the first half quarterback, Jaren Hall. 5 of 10, 67 yards and a pick. Also lost a fumble. Couldn't move the offense, couldn't do anything. Second half, Nick Mullins comes in. 13 of 22, 113 yards and a touchdown. Sacked once. Also didn't look very good.
Nope.
Ty Chandler, 10 carries, 40 yards. Madison, 3 carries, 17 yards. Yuck. Yeah. Jefferson, 5 for 59. Munt, 4 receptions, 39 yards and a touchdown. Addison, 3 for 28. Ty Chandler, 3 for 24. Jaren Hall lost a fumble. However, Najee Thompson. Let's talk about that guy for a minute. Because on a punt, that dude scampered downfield, got in the returner's face, who muffed the punt, and Najee was diving at his feet anyway, took him out, still managed to get up and recovered that fumble. Yep. Well done. Like, if there's one guy who came to play, it was Najee Thompson. That dude played like his life depended on it.
To be fair, most special teamers tend to play pretty hard.
Yeah. I will also say, though, there are 2 guys that stood out head and shoulders above everybody else when it comes to defense. Actually, 3 that I think stood out head and shoulders above everybody else when it comes to defense. Ivan Pace Jr., who was in on 12 tackles, and he managed a QB hit. Cameron Bynum, who was in on 10 tackles. And Pat Jones II, who was in on 9 tackles and had 2 QB hits. Those guys played their butts off. Everybody else, not really impressed with you.
Not this week, anyways.
Nope, not this week at all. This game was depressing to watch for a couple of reasons. First, I was part of the Give the Ball to Hall crowd.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out.
I mean, so here's the thing. I don't think it was the wrong decision because...
No, it wasn't.
Statistically, you're looking at like I said, a Packers defense that was, up until this point, looking really quite rough. And if there was a time to put in a rookie and just see what he's going to do, you do it against bad defenses. Unfortunately, the Packers decided to play really good defense this week, which is also why he got pulled halfway through, because even Kevin O'Connell must have realized and went, yeah, these guys came to play and are playing way better than they normally do, so we're going to have to swap out to our other QB, which frankly didn't do any better. Like, honestly, that's the only thing I'll say is that a lot of people, or anybody who's saying Jaren Hall is shit, neither QB was able to do much, so I can't really support that. At the same time, they didn't ask Jaren Hall to do a whole lot, which kind of felt bad. It felt like they kept trying to lean on a run game that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
when our defense couldn't stop them either. Like,
defense couldn't stop them
I would have been okay if they were trying to lean on a run game and our defense had the ability to at least slow them down or stop them.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get stops. We couldn't stop them. We couldn't stop them from running. We couldn't stop them from throwing. It's like we forgot how to play football for a week.
Honestly, not even just that. Like, our scheming for the offense didn't look great either. There was just so many things that I don't know if it's on the coach. I don't know if it's on execution, but it definitely felt like there were like no one was on the same page. That's what it felt like.
I will say that the probably with DJ Wanham and Hawkinson going down the way they did, that's probably a huge blow to morale in the locker room. So that I can, like, there's the potential that that's a thing.
But they all know. But the players are around for long enough that they know that like injuries happen. We need to move on. You can't just on hold on that stuff. They're professionals for a reason, right? They're supposed to be able to not let that get to them. And obviously early on when Kirk went down, you saw that didn't get to him. They were able to forge around Dobbs, eventually forge around Mullins, and like they played well enough to potentially make playoffs. And now the last couple of weeks have just been the downfall. And I think it's the combination that everything is finally starting to come to realization that this ain't it. We're not going to be able to do it. Or they say we're not going to be able to do it. We're not going to make playoffs. Everyone just finally has gotten that, maybe got that feeling under them, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Funnily enough, our commissioner for my fantasy league sent out all of the money for, who was going to win and congratulated in a big long text. At the very bottom, because he's also a Vikings fan, and he's a smartass, he wrote hashtag the Vikings should have tanked. Which, in hindsight, after Kirk Cousins gets injured, maybe you can make that argument. But unfortunately, you know how players are, and you know how coaches are. It's not their job.
At that point in time, you're still riding a win streak. You want to keep
going.
going.
Exactly. On top of that, you're not ever going to purposely try to tank.
No.
The only way that ever happens is when a GM builds a bad team to tank, which is kind of what the Cardinals looked like they were doing, and yet they somehow managed to do okay, which is weird. But anyways,
well, and it's funny because, and I'm going to quote somebody here. I'm going to quote Steve Dangle from the SDPN network. Love those guys. If you like hockey at all, go watch those guys. They are absolute Leaf homers, so do be aware of that. But they are very knowledgeable about what they talk about. So is Steve. Personally, like, he's a Leafs stat machine. Like, that's what his brain is geared to do. But he said, coaches and players will tell you that tanking doesn't exist, and they don't believe in it. And GMs will tell you that, no, we're just trying to ice the best team available, and we're trying to do what's best for the future of this team. But here's the thing about GMs. They are filthy liars.
Oh, yeah.
They will absolutely tank a team if they feel it is necessary to do.
Yep.
The same way you would tank a team in Madden, they'll do it in real life.
Yep. The only way that the Vikings could have tanked would have been immediately looking at the Kirk Cousins thing, went, all right, that's it, that's our season, and sold everything at the trade deadline, which would have been really hard to do because of the fact there wasn't a lot of time to make those decisions. So
no, there wasn't, and that's the problem. If Kirk goes out 2 weeks earlier, maybe you can make that happen because now you can put Hunter on the block. You can put, you can do what you can do with Harrison Smith. You can find homes for different pieces that aren't coming back next season. Maybe even DJ Wanham or other stuff. You start shopping your pieces around. But the way it worked out is they didn't have time. That, like, we've talked about that. When you have to make a snap decision like that, you either have to know now and start working the phones for a sale, or you have to move in and try to buy a quarterback who can maybe keep the dream alive. When we can sit here all day long and second guess what they did, as much as we want to, but it looked at first like it was working, and then it just all fell apart. And there's only so much blame you can put in so many different places. Ish happens. There's not much else you can say about it. This has been a disappointing season, but we're not completely out of contention for a decent quarterback in the draft.
We could still get one in the draft.
Yep. And
and honestly, I'm fairly positive that the Vikings and Kirk Cousins are going to find a way to make a deal happen for the next year or two, because as much as I've been hearing quote unquote rumors as to where Kirk Cousins should go in free agency, everything I've heard from Kirk Cousins himself has always been, I don't want to move my family. I'd rather stay here if I can.
Yeah, the only thing I've heard beyond that is that he wants to be on tape running so that he can show potential free agent suitors.
Yeah.
His agent has something to show them that says that he's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the only thing beyond, and that free agent suitors, that's the only thing beyond that I've ever heard from anywhere that says,
and technically the
I don't
Vikings
want to go
are
anywhere.
Free agent.
But,
and I was going to say, technically the Vikings are free agent suitors in that regard.
Yeah,
because
and
everyone
they would
is a
be
free agent
suitors
suitor.
in that guard. But
Yeah.
they would be able to have a lot more access to something like that than other teams.
Yeah.
But it's the only thing I've heard that says that Kirk might want to shop around. And I really don't think he does. I think he'll take the offer from the Vikings, which will be like, I'm sure 2 years, $50 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. I might be $10 million more or less, depending.
Yeah, I imagine it's somewhere in there.
2 for 50, 2 for 60, something like that. I think 2 for 60.
Because, like, don't get me wrong, there are definitely teams who are probably going to reach out and just inquire that I could definitely see
the Falcons
doing so. The Falcons would be a big one. Honestly, the Panthers,
the Patriots,
probably. The Patriots, yep. Hell, the Bucks.
The Bucks might,
they could. You know.
So there are going to be teams that will reach out. What they do at that point will be interesting. The Broncos. Yeah.
The Broncos potentially, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right. So, now that is all done and said and done, I did beat you this week pretty badly. Still not enough to make up on the overall season, which numbers are going to be there. You're going to whoop the shit out of me because I don't think there's a way that I can win enough games next week to make up that deficit.
Don't forget playoffs. We never know.
Yeah, but I was going to say, should we do playoffs as a separate tally?
I don't think we did last year.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Do we want to do... Let's do game balls for the week.
We can go to game balls.
Yeah, let's do game balls, showers, inferno, potatoes, picks for next week, power rankings, and then we'll move into the hockey stuff because I do have a small hockey corner. And we'll do hockey power rankings, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Sure, why not? CeeDee Lamb, game ball.
Lamar Jackson, game ball.
Kyrie Williams, game ball.
Kyler Murray, game ball.
I feel gross with this one. Just want to let you know off the top of my head that I feel gross with this one. Jordan Love gets a game ball.
Justin Fields, game ball. I also had on my list, Jordan Love was on mine, Joe Flacco, and Najee Harris.
I also had DJ Moore, Darius Slayton, and Jaden Reed.
None of which I would argue with. Hit the showers. I'll start here on hit the showers. The Eagles, the entire team, hit the showers. I don't know what went wrong. I don't know who to blame. So all of you go take a shower.
Viking quarterbacks, you all need to take a shower.
Bryce Young. You might as well just pull the bench in there and spend the season in there.
Pretty much. Jared Goff, that was not quite good enough. You need to take a chill shower.
Drake London. Go hit the showers, dude.
I know, I feel like you should add Arthur Smith in there while you're at it.
No, he's in a different place.
Tony Pollard. You, sir, did not quite do what you're expected to do, so go hit the showers.
Yeah. I also had Tyreek Hill on my list, but that's not entirely fair. I can't expect him to do 140 yards every week.
Every game, yeah.
All right, Inferno. You can start.
Funnily enough, pretty much in all my Infernos, I put little parentheses with why I put them in the spot they did. and 2 of them are exactly the same. So this is gonna be kind of fun. So let's start off with the lowest rating on mine, which is Arthur Smith. You're in the 7th circle, my guy. You are, frankly, the more I watch you and your team, the more I get confused as to what the fuck you're doing. If it isn't a magic 8-ball, I don't know what the fuck it is. In my parentheses, all I said was, goodbye, job.
Arthur Smith, in my 7th circle of hell. In the 7th circle of the Inferno. I mean, every time I watch you, I'm confused as to how you even landed a job. Like, how badly did you lie on your CV to get this job?
No idea, man. Moving on, I have a familiar face, familiar name, Bill Belichick, 8th circle. Yeah, we all know what's going on, Bill. In my parentheses, I put in, goodbye, job.
Brad Allen and your entire officiating crew. Welcome to the 8th circle. That was abysmal. That was horrible. And you all should know better. In parentheses, goodbye, playoffs.
Funnily enough, I have the refs from the Lions-Cowboys game. You're in my 10th circle. You're the hottest you could possibly be. That was fucking horrible. Parentheses, rigging question mark?
NFL Department of Officiating.
Ooh.
You are in my 10th circle. I don't know what you're doing this year, but it isn't attempting to officiate anything. Your officials are stupid. They can't seem to get the calls right. They have no fucking idea what they're doing. And you're sitting back and watching the world burn. PR nightmare? Question mark?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yep. Potatoes!
Potato.
Potato. I'll go first. Maybe I had it wrong. And the Bears shouldn't trade the first overall pick. They should trade Justin Fields.
No. No.
Hold on. I have reason for this. Hear me out. Hear me out. Are you going to gamble that he can be as good as this for the rest of his career or better? Or do you think that he is peaking? Because if you think he's peaking, I think Caleb Williams can do better. And you should trade him while you have the number one pick.
That's still a gamble. You still don't
that
know
is a gamble, but I think it's a gamble with a better upside.
I disagree. You have no idea what Caleb Williams is going to be in the NFL. Everyone said Bryce Young was the next kid. Look at that. Everyone said Trevor Lawrence.
What did I say?
No. A lot of people did, though. Trevor Lawrence was touted as the next big prospect. He's good. He's not great. Like, I don't buy into that. We all know that coming from college and having a great college career does not translate to having a great NFL career. It just doesn't.
Okay.
So, no. Justin Fields is proving the more he plays, the better he gets. And he's consistently getting better and better. And sometimes he has dips, but there's no question that from season to season, he is better every season from prior seasons.
Okay.
No reason to stop now.
All right.
So, no, I'm not even touching that potato.
Okay.
Maybe the refs are going to screw someone out of the playoffs next week.
Oh, absolutely. Fully load that sucker. And you know what? I'll go with a corollary on it. It's going to be the Bills.
Probably, actually.
You know, that would be the cheese on the cake for that.
To be fair, it could be the Packers, too.
Could be, but I don't think they're going to need to.
We'll see.
We'll see. But no, yeah, absolutely. The refs are atrocious, and they are absolutely going to affect the outcome of the playoffs. Or who makes it into the playoffs. Maybe the Vikings players have just given up.
I don't know if they've given up for the year, but they definitely gave up in that game.
I meant for the year. Like, they're just like, we're
not
going to make playoffs, we're done.
I don't know if they've given up for the entire year because, it's still a division game, and division games are always, pretty typically players will show up for those. So I
Did
don't
last
think
week.
technically. That's why I said I think typically they show up. Typically is the key word there. They gave up during the game halfway through, I think, but I don't know if they're out for the year yet. So we'll see. We'll see who shows up. How we'll find out in the first quarter probably, depending on if they were going to play or not. All right, maybe the Eagles are in a slump.
Oh, absolutely. I won't say they're 100% in a slump. I will say they have
They're definitely
problems.
slipping though.
They're slipping a lot. I will eat it plain. I don't think that's a very spicy potato. I think it's pretty fair to say they're in a slump. My potato would be maybe the Eagles aren't going to even win a playoff game this year.
I mean,
but I'm not taking that as a potato. I'm just saying that if you had spiced it up with that, now we've got something to talk about. But I think it's pretty.
I debated it. I'm not gonna lie, I debated it, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to go there yet.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say the Eagles are kind of slumping, just like the Chiefs had. I don't think either team looks particularly great, and I don't think we're going to get a repeat of Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
No, God no.
Now watch it happen, and I'm going to be like, well, I'm an idiot.
It's not going to happen.
All right. Maybe, just maybe, and this hurts me to say, the Chargers' top head coaching candidate should be Brian Flores?
One thing I have said, and I still stand by it, is the Chargers have already tried defensive coordinators at head coach. It doesn't work for the type of team they have. If they want Justin Herbert and they want that offense to cook the way it should, they should bring in an offensive coordinator. So no, I don't think Brian Flores should be the guy they're looking at.
But their offense has never been the problem. Their defense is super highly paid and just looks like trash.
I understand that, but I'm actually disagreeing hardcore with you that their offense has been a problem, because if you look at the way the play calling has been, it has been fucking atrocious. I know their defense has issues, and that's why you bring on an offensive-minded head coach to help give them a good scheme for Justin Herbert, and you bring in a good defensive coordinator. But that's got to be the head coach that does that properly. That's my bet.
Okay.
Because Brandon Staley was supposed to be a defensive guy, and look how well that worked out.
Yeah, well, he's an idiot defensive guy. See, Flores is a proven track record of being a really good defensive guy.
Yeah,
and he's been a head coach elsewhere where he did really well.
Coach.
He did actually way better with the Dolphins than he should have, which is why he got fired, because he refused to tank.
He did mediocre with the Dolphins, let's be honest. Like, he didn't even want Tua, and we're seeing how that works out if you actually believe in the guy. So...
didn't work for his system what he thought, though.
That's what I'm saying. And I don't think that bringing that system to Justin Herbert's going to help it.
Because I think he did want Herbert.
I just don't think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I think they should bring in an offensive-minded guy who's going to let Herbert use his fucking cannon of an arm properly. Because that's what he has. And all I see with Brandon Staley's fucking scheme was dunking and diving, and that's not what Justin Herbert is. He's going to cannon, let him use his cannon. For my final potato, maybe the Bears are actually good?
Plain. I'll eat it plain. I don't think they're good. I think they're better than people thought they were, especially now that they're healthy. And now that it seems like Justin Fields has taken the next steps and started to figure out what he needs to do. Right. I'm going to be very interested to see his progression to next season. If he doesn't regress, but he progresses, especially at the beginning of the season, because he looked good at the end of last season, too. And I was like, oh, okay, he's going to do well this coming season. And then he didn't look very great. And, he's gotten less erratic. So I think what he needs to do is work with a passing coach in the offseason.
Right.
And really work on his accuracy. Once he's got that done, because he's got a cannon. If he can figure out how to put the ball through a tight hole, now you've got something. Power rankings next week?
Sure.
Power rankings. Power rankings. Texans.
Me or you first?
I'll start first this week. At number 10, I have the Chiefs. You have just managed to creep back into the power rankings, my dudes. That wasn't a great game, but it was a game.
It was a game.
And you won, so.
Fair enough. At my number 10, I have the Eagles. Man, you lose another game, you're out of my fucking playoffs. Like, you're just
They're already out of mine.
Like, I know, but they're just, like, right at the very edge of, like, man, that's... You guys are having a rough time for a team was really good at the beginning of the year, so...
At number 9, welcome back, Houston Texans, the Strouds. With Stroud back, you guys look like you're winning. You guys look like you have a very good offense. And you might... I debated whether I should put the Texans or the Colts on here, and I think the Texans have a better chance of winning. Thus, I am taking the Texans here at number 9. And good job, guys.
Fair enough. At number 9, I have the Chiefs. Man, it's really weird to see these two teams with the Chiefs and Eagles at the very bottom, because in fact, several weeks ago, they were at the very top, and it just tells you they're slumping hard in December. Real bad.
At number 8, I have the Rams. You would have moved up more, but that was a really shitty game. You won, but you can't do that.
At number 8, I have the Rams. For pretty much the same reasons. I wanted to move you up more because I think you have a much higher ceiling, but that game was a bit rough.
At number 7, I have the Bills. That wasn't the great game I wanted, but I think you have a chance. I'm pulling for you in my heart.
At number 7, I have the Bills. Yeah, I mean, you won.
At number 6, I have the Lions. I'm sorry, you did have to fall a little bit, but you guys got fucked and you know it.
At number 6, I have the Browns. You're doing good. You're still kind of in this mediocre zone for me where I don't know exactly when you're going to break, but you are going to break, and it's not going to be pretty.
At number 5, I have the Dolphins. Yeah, you guys took a tumble. You lost. But it wasn't just that you lost. It was that you got steamrolled and didn't even put up a fight. If you'd put up a fight, you probably are a couple of spots higher. But you're not, and you didn't, so here you are.
At number 5, I have the Cowboys. Yeah, maybe this is unfair, but frankly, you know, as well as I do, you didn't win that football game. You got gifted that football game. And because of that, you don't move a fucking single inch from my spots, my boy.
At number 4, I have the Cowboys, only because the Dolphins fell, addition by subtraction. You didn't deserve that win. You know you didn't deserve that win. I'm not counting it as a win. Fuck you.
At number 4, I have the Dolphins because you were up a higher spot, and then you got shellacked. And so now you're at 4.
At number 3, I have the Browns because apparently I'm a bigger believer in Flacco than you are.
I think that offense is going to break at some point. I just don't know when.
I haven't seen it yet. People keep saying that, and I keep not seeing it happen. So as long as I keep not seeing it happen, and even before that, they were doing fine. Their defense is going to drag them through it anyway. So if their offense breaks at some point, that defense will just step up and smash something.
I don't have any faith in that happening.
So 3, Browns. I think you guys have got a great chance this year, and I can't wait to see the AFC Championship game, Ravens-Browns. I think that's going to be fun.
I don't think they'll get there, but we'll see. Number 3, I have the Lions because, frankly, you guys got screwed. You should have won that game, and you should have moved up, and I refuse to acknowledge that you lost that game. So here you go.
At number 2, I have the Niners. Congratulations on locking up the number 1 seed, my dudes.
Number 2, I have the Niners. I mean, you weren't going to outclass the Chiefs with what they did to the Dolphins.
Ravens.
So that's what I meant to say.
I know that's what you meant to say, and that's why we both have the Ravens at 1. When you shellac a rival 56-19, yeah, no, you stay at the number 1 spot. You've locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC, and I think that was the game that made everybody go, maybe Lamar Jackson should be the MVP.
I don't know if he will be. We'll see. There's been a lot of players that have been like right on the edge of MVP talks.
Yep.
Brock Purdy is not going to be MVP.
No, he's not even the best guy on his own team.
Exactly. Like Christian McCaffrey has obviously been the argument for MVP. Tyreek Hill has actually been a huge candidate for MVP because let's be honest, that Dolphins team would be a lot hurting without Tyreek Hill. So.
Yep. So I honestly think there's a couple of guys out there that have better chances than Lamar, or should have better chances, but it is a quarterback-driven league, and it will probably be like Lamar. But
yeah, probably.
Overall, Rams number 1. Well done. We'll see how you do next week. Speaking of next week, you ready?
No.
So, next week, we don't have a Thursday game. We have 2 Saturday games. Steelers at Ravens.
Ravens. That's not even a question.
I agree with you, but honestly, it's going to depend. Where the Ravens have already locked up the first overall seed. Are they going to start Lamar, or are they going to hold him out? Are they going to start their starters, or are they going to hold him out? Because especially with Lamar's injury history,
it's a division game. They'll still start Ravens.
All right. Texans at Colts.
I like the Colts' chance, but I think overall the Texans are just a little better of a team.
I agree. I think the Texans win that one. Bucks at Panthers.
Man, I'm not making that same mistake. Go Bucks.
I agree with you. The Panthers aren't going to win that one. Browns at Bengals.
As much as I think the Bengals have a good chance at that game, the Browns are just, I think, going to be just enough because, frankly, we saw how bad that O-line is at times for the Bengals, and the Browns are going to eat them alive.
All right, so I'm going to go back and change one of my picks. You can have the Ravens. I will take the Steelers.
Weird choice.
I have this feeling that they aren't going to start everybody because they're going to hold them in preparation for the playoffs.
Their second string is still going to win, even if that happens.
I disagree. I think the Steelers are going to come in fired up.
Yeah.
Vikings at Lions.
Let's go Lions. This hurts.
I agree with you. I agree. We're going to watch the Vikings just lose that out.
Hey, better draft pick?
Probably. And here's the stinker of the week. You ready?
No.
Jets at Patriots. Flip a coin?
Just because it would be funny, let's see the Jets win for once against the Patriots.
You know what? I'm going to take the Patriots just because I haven't taken them all year.
I think I did once.
Falcons at Saints.
I guess I'll go with the Saints.
As will I, but you never know what the Magic 8 Ball is going, and the voices in his head are going to tell frickin' Arthur Smith.
Shit, the 8 Ball.
Jags at Titans.
I want the Titans to win here just so the Texans can make playoffs, but I just don't think the Jags will lose that game.
I will take the Titans. I don't think they'll win, but I'm going to do it anyway because I really want the Texans to beat the Colts, and I really want them to be in the playoffs.
I agree, I really do, but I just don't think the Jaguars will lose that game.
Seahawks at Cardinals.
Fuck it. Let's go Cardinals.
I agree. Let's do it.
We're balling.
Bears at Packers.
Let's go Bears. Let's do it.
Bears, do it.
Let's do it, Bears.
Let's do it.
Knock them out.
Knock them out.
Again, do it. If we can't make it, none of us can.
Exactly. Chiefs at Chargers.
Sadly, the Chargers have a chance, but I don't think they'll be good enough against the Chiefs.
I agree with you. Broncos at Raiders.
I have no faith in this Broncos team at the moment, so I'm going to go Raiders.
I will too. I like Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
Eagles at Giants.
It'd be funny to see the Giants win. I don't think it's going to happen, though. So I'm going
You know
Eagles.
what? I'll take that action. I don't think it'll happen either. But I'm going to do it because the Eagles are in a slump. Playing the odds here.
Fair enough.
Rams at Niners. And we already know CMC isn't playing.
Yeah, we know CMC is not playing. The Rams really need to win that game.
And the Niners have nothing to play for.
I just don't know if they can beat the Niners with how good that team is, but the Rams have been looking good. They're kind of underdogs. Maybe the 49ers don't play all the starters. I'm going Rams.
I agree with you. Normally I'd pick the Niners if this was any other week, but we have to consider the Niners have nothing to play for and the Rams have everything to play for.
Yep.
Cowboys at Commanders.
Again, I would love to see the Commanders win that game, but I don't think it's going to happen, so Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Cowboys should easily win that game, even if they start backups.
Yep.
And the final game, Sunday night. Bills at Dolphins.
The Bills need that game. They really need that game. They don't get that game. The Dolphins win.
I'll take the Bills. I'm here for you, Bills.
I'm not.
All right. It's going to be a fun week, I think.
It'll be an interesting week, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting week. We'll see how we do next week, and then we'll have to get into the playoffs, the playoff brackets and everything. All right. Now, I have a quick hockey corner before I do hockey power rankings. So I saw a thing recently about the 3 biggest rivals to different teams. And the ones for the Wild, I kind of had a beef with a little bit. And I wanted to talk about that for a minute, especially considering what's happened in the past 2 games. Because for us, they had Dallas, which I get, Colorado, which I get, and Chicago. Chicago hasn't been good for at least a half decade, maybe longer. Ever since their last cup runs, they've been kind of slowly falling apart. And I'd never considered them that huge of a pain anyway. However, there is one team that I think should be on that list that doesn't make it and should. And that is the Winnipeg Jets. We share a division with them. We share conference. And now we have 2 players out thanks to the last game we played in Winnipeg. Both our starting goaltender, Philip Gustafsson, and our star player, Kirill Kaprizov. That marks twice now. The last 2 times he's visited Winnipeg, Kirill has been injured. And I almost feel like both of them are purposeful. The first time was literally at the end of the season. One of the Jets players, Kirill stopped and ducked down a little bit as he was trying to play a puck. One of the Jets players, rather than stopping and hitting him in the back, came at him, and then you could almost see him bend his knees and jump and he jumped onto Kirill's back like a backpack, and it caused Kirill to do the splits, and he had a groin injury from that. And this time, they cross-checked him into oblivion, and it was never called. It did start a fight. Maroon threw the gloves with somebody for it. But the point is, every time we face the Jets, I want to see us beat the Jets. And we haven't been able to do it this year because Connor Hellebuck is standing on his fucking head. I, as a Wild fan, will say that I hate the Jets more than I hate the Blackhawks. I kind of pity the Blackhawks right now. But even if the Blackhawks were good, I'd still say the Jets would be number 3 as compared to the Blackhawks. Outside of that, I don't really care one way or the other about the Preds. But the other team that I would put in very close to making the list would be the St. Louis Blues. Because we play them every year in the playoffs, and they beat us every year. Fuck the Blues. So that's my little hockey corner rant about who I think Minnesota's biggest rivals are. I mean, Colorado and Dallas need no explanation. Dallas because they stole our fucking hockey team. Fuck you forever. And Colorado because they're Colorado. I don't think we need more hate towards that box state than what we've already got. So, ready for the power rankings?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So at number 10 this week, we have the Philadelphia Flyers. Overall record, 19-12-5, 43 points. Their last 10, they are 5-2-3. They're not playing as hot as they were, but they're still playing a lot better than anybody has any expectation of them playing. They're probably going to make the playoffs this year. I don't know how deep they'll go, but it is fun to watch. I will say that. They are playing a very, very good style of hockey right now. And if I'm the Flyers, the style of hockey I want to play is centered around Travis Konechny. Be jerks. It's the old Broad Street Bullies style of hockey. Go out there and take someone's head off. Needle them to death. That is what you should be playing. Number 9, the Florida Panthers. 22-12-2, 46 points. In their last 10, they are 6-4. The Panthers are just that team that's going to hover around the outskirts, and come playoff time, they're going to turn it up to playoff hockey and just decimate people. Because that's what they did last year. Number 8, welcome to the list, Carolina Hurricanes. 20-13-4, 44 points, last 10, 6-1-3. Finally starting to round into form, finally starting to find the goal, finally getting some okay goaltending, and then their starting goaltender, Anderson, I believe, is out again. It's always been the problem with Freddie. Love you to death, Freddie, but you get hurt way too often. The Vegas Golden Knights are number 7, 22-11-5, 49 points. In their last 10, they are 4-6. I'm not going to say there's trouble with the Golden Knights because they're never in trouble. They're just coasting now. I think they're kind of assuming that if they coast and play well enough, they'll make the playoffs anyway. So they're kind of just marking time until it's time for the playoffs. The Boston Bruins, 22-7-6 with 50 points. In their last 10, they are 5-2-3, including 2 losses to Minnesota. You guys are not playing horribly, but you are having a problem of playing a full 60 minutes worth of hockey. Still, this is a problem. I don't know what you need to do to fix it, but you gotta fix it. Number 6, the Boston... Or, I already did that one. Number 5, the Dallas Stars. 22-9-4 with 48 points. In your last 10, you're 7-2-1. Robertson isn't having the super year, but he's still scoring at a decent clip. Ottinger is still a good goalie. You guys are still going to make the playoffs, and you'll probably make a good run this year. You're playing really good hockey, and frankly, I hate you. Number 4, the Winnipeg Jets. 22-9-4, 48 points. Last 10, 7-1-2. You guys have beat the Wild twice in the past couple of days. I hate you. I hope you burn. You won't, but that's okay. Connor Hellebuck is one of the best goalies in hockey, and I hate that you have him. Number 3, the Colorado Avalanche. 23-11-3, 49 points. Last 10, 7-2-1. Since the blow-up at the media, you guys have done nothing but go on a win streak and just decimate people. I guess it worked. Lit a fire under the right people. Number 2, the Vancouver Canucks. 23-10-3, 49 points. Last 10, 7-1-2. Vancouver continues to be a wagon. They're just rolling. Thatcher Demko, one of the best goalies in hockey. Overall, they probably have Quinn Hughes, might be one of the best defensemen in hockey. And Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, they are scoring at an unbelievable pace right now. Good job, guys. You guys went from a team that stunk last year to a team that's an absolute wagon. Whatever it is, however the coach has got you doing it, I give him full props that he's probably in line for Coach of the Year. The New York Rangers round out the top. 25-9-1, 50 points, and they are 7-3 in their last 10. Just the Rangers continuing to do Ranger things. Jonathan Quick turning back the clock to be Jonathan Quick of like 8 years ago. It's been magical to watch. Panarin being Panarin. Zibanejad isn't as good as he has been, but Adam Fox, everybody else on that team is just stepping up and being unreal and just fantastic. The Rangers are an absolute wagon this year. And if it winds up being the Canucks and the Rangers in the finals, I would not be at all surprised. So, the Rangers continuing to be the Rangers. Also, I want to do one thing. I want to shout out to the SDPN guys. I know you're never going to see this because why would you watch this? Even though I post it in your self-promo channel all the time. If any of you watch this, the fact that you guys because they did a fantasy draft where they all had to draft so many players. But the fact is the only guy from the Wild who got drafted was Kaprizov. The fact that there were some defensemen who were drafted and they didn't deserve to be, and you left Jonas Brodin off your list is a disgrace. He's probably one of the best defensive D-men in hockey. Name me another guy who's gone out there and played up against Connor Bedard and just absolutely shut him down. You don't see it. So, like, Brodin is severely underrated, and I think the fact that none of you all even knew that, I think, is upsetting to me. I mean, I understand Steve, you don't even know the captain is Jared Spurgeon. And I get I'm a Wild fan, and I'm allowed to be angry about this, but I couldn't name the captain of the Maple Leafs. I think it's John Tavares. But I couldn't name your assistants. So, I get it. But at the same time, like, I feel the Brodin disrespect is unwarranted. Okay, I'm done with that now. Moving on to non-sports related things real quick so we can plug other stuff. How are you doing on your Sekiro playthrough?
Well, I am currently, obviously I've watched the YouTube channel, I am still uploading my original playthrough. I haven't even gotten to the New Game Plus stuff yet. The holidays have severely delayed my upload schedule, so I'm really behind on that, but so currently I didn't obviously stream yesterday. I didn't stream today because I don't stream on Tuesdays. So tomorrow I will be streaming again. And I am currently at the old fights of where you fight Owl. And it's the harder Owl fight now. Which I only tried him twice. It's very doable now that I kind of have a pattern down for it. It's just getting the timings down proper with the right timing for myself and everything. So we'll see if I can get through that tomorrow. I should be able to because frankly I'm at a spot where it seems like I can't progress with the ending that I'm going for until I beat him.
Did you get the Headless Ape?
Yeah, I beat the Headless Ape.
Okay. I wanted to make sure he spawned for you because I know that the last time I watched you play, that was one of your concerns.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I beat him the first time. I did get him to spawn the second time. I have no idea how I could possibly beat that fight when the second ape gets spawned. Because the first phase, when you're fighting him, is really easy. When he spawns the second ape, I have no idea how that's even doable. Because, frankly, getting them to split up is almost impossible with that small arena. And if you try to focus on the headless ape with the sword, once you get him staggered, the other one will just do a super jump move on you, which is really hard to avoid. And if you try to avoid the headless one and try to take on only the original ape, it's really hard because every time you try to do that, the headless one has ridiculous range and will just zone you out. So I don't see how that fight's doable whatsoever. I've seen people beat it. The way I see them beat it is being able to pull away the one ape from the headless one. I have not been successful at being able to do that, so that was a fight that I basically went, I'll come back to it later if I want. I might not ever win that fight, to be honest, though.
I know you need that for the ending you're going for, though, correct?
No. I don't need it. You don't need to beat him for that ending.
Okay.
So, in fact, all you need for him is if you want the prayer beads, basically.
Yeah, well, I know we were talking about the prayer beads, too, because I know you were talking about wanting to get all the prayer beads.
Yeah, he gives you a prayer bead and a shinobi skill, but neither one are required for either of the last two endings that I'm going for. So, technically, there's a third ending that I'm going to do later, but that's the bad ending, which is, not that hard to do, apparently. Outside of the fact that some of the boss fights are pretty difficult. That's probably the last ending I'll do. But the current ending that I'm going for, the purification ending, does not require you to beat him. Only the first time do you have to beat him to get the aromatic flower. After that, it's an optional boss fight. So, yeah, so right now, though, I have to beat Father Owl to be able to get the flower from the past and bring it to the... It's weird.
Yeah, but, I know. The whole game
to be
is
able
weird.
to get the... Yeah. So, I'm going through that part. And that's pretty much where I'm at. After I beat him, then I have to move on to the place in the sky, the Divine Realm. And then I have to get the Dragon's Tear, and then I can go on and pretty much finish the game. So, I don't think I'll finish it tomorrow, being that the Divine Realm is pretty big, and I know that there's the prayer beads there that I'm missing that I have to try to get. But I'm hoping by the end, well, I don't know. Let me see. We only have Wednesday, Thursday. So, no, I'm probably not going to finish it this week. I'll probably finish it next week. I'll probably get really close this week. What will likely happen is that next week I'll be just probably on the final boss, probably.
All right.
That's my guess, though.
So, we did our third episode, I believe, of BG3?
Yes. We did our third one.
We did our third episode.
I have the first episode fully edited. I just haven't uploaded any yet.
Is it rendered as well?
That's what I'm saying. They're all rendered and edited. All three are rendered and ready to go. I'll probably actually upload them and just have them scheduled to drop on Fridays. And so I'll probably just do that every week, is that I'll edit, render, and then drop the episode, all three parts, probably 3 to 4 parts, all on Friday. Yeah, so they'll probably all drop on Friday because there's going to be Friend Fridays, so it'd be kind of weird to have Friend Fridays on Monday. So
So I've got to remember where we're currently at and what we've done. We've done some stuff, lots of weird stuff that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We're having fun with it, and the axe puns have been hard and heavy.
Yes.
Gonna have to get some hammer puns in there too. We did meet Raphael. And immediately, you'll probably hear it in the edit, my wife in the background yells, "Oh my god, he's such a drama queen!"
Yeah, that guy's weird. Yeah, I mean, there's, we still haven't gone and cleared out the goblins.
Nope, we can do that eventually if we want.
But we did run into the bugbear with the troll, and that was weird.
Yeah. We also ran into the ogres.
Yes.
And you decided to come back later.
Yes.
On that one. And we are in the Blighted Village, and we did... we did save the gnome.
We did save the gnome. That's right. We did save the gnome from the windmill. Talked my way out of pretty much everything.
Yep, which is perfectly acceptable to me.
That's kind of what my character is built to do. Talk my way out of everything.
No, and that's perfectly all right. I will say that I have started playing Rogue Trader, and I haven't gotten out of the first act. I am just trying a multitude.
It's a pretty big game. Yeah.
It's a huge game. I am understanding that there are 5 acts, and in Act 4 and 5, right now I don't know if they fixed them, but at the beginning there were a lot of game-breaking bugs.
I've heard they did patch it to where most of those are fixed at this point.
That wouldn't surprise me. It is Owlcat Games. They are very good about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I am a very big fan of their development studio. So, but I haven't made it out of Act 1. I haven't even made it out of the first system yet. I haven't even found nearly all the characters yet. But I'm trying multiple builds, trying multiple things, just seeing what I like the best.
There's a lot of different builds for that game.
There are a ton of builds for that game.
An absolute ton.
And it has to do with what you start as plus what your background is. I've been doing a lot of stuff with the Sanctioned Psychers, just trying to find, that's not horrible. I think the problem is there isn't a really great, PC AoE class. There is a companion you can get that is an absolute AoE monkey. And she is really great to have along. If only because of some of her moves. Some of the stuff she can do. But you have to be careful because friendly fire, she will fuck you up too. She also, you can give her some single point stuff. You can give her a lot of AoE stuff. And she can cover a very wide swath with her AoE. I'm looking at, right now the Psyker I'm running is a buff Psyker. He's, what are they called? From the Sanctus. He is actually the one that channels the power of the Golden Throne. So he has, Word of the Emperor, and then he can deal extra damage to demons and stuff like that. So, I'm trying that, and I may, I want to look into a priest, because I want to see what their powers are and what they do. And then I want to look at, I know the Navy officer is just kind of the Navy officer. I've already dealt with one of them. I've dealt with Adeptus Militarum, and I don't remember if there's another one in there that I like. But I want to try the priest and see what I can do with that, because I think that would be fun. I wish there were a Tech Priest option. I wish some of the options that you can get in-game for backgrounds were actual options that you could pick. I get why they don't, but I kind of wish there were.
DLC, maybe.
Maybe, because you do run into an Adeptus Sororitas, a Sister of Battle, and she will join your party, and eventually you will run into a Space Marine. I get why you can't play a Space Marine background, because a Rogue Trader would never be able to, because the idea is that you're the heir to a Rogue Trader legacy, and they have pulled you from wherever you were so that they can choose the next person to take over the Rogue Trader writ that they have. And obviously you can't be pulled from Adeptus Astartes to do that. It doesn't work that way. But you could be pulled from the Sororitas for that. That is something that is a possibility. And you could be pulled from the Adeptus Mechanicus for that. That is also something that could potentially happen. But I kind of understand why you don't have everything. And for anybody who has played the tabletop games, Dark Heresy or Rogue Trader or anything like that, the actual in-game mechanics are very similar to that. That's what they modeled it after. So I didn't know that's how they were going to model it. I have played Death Watch and Dark Heresy, so I was prepped for this, and I really enjoy it. I have not played Rogue Trader before, but I've played both Death Watch and Dark Heresy. So I do feel like I haven't done anything with the multiplayer yet, but I do feel like current. I'll look into how that works. Like if we're both allowed to create characters, if we have to take pre-gens, or if we would have to take over other characters. But there is a cooperation option. And I think you and I would really enjoy playing it together because it is a lot of fun and it's a very long game and it's a very big game. So it would be a lot of fun. I haven't even gotten into because I know there's a ship building upgrade mechanic and I haven't even touched that yet. So
there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's about all we have. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Nope.
Quick blurb. The Detroit Pistons did end their skid at 28 games.
That's true.
So, outside of that, we hope everybody had a great New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Happy New Year again to everybody. We hope you had wonderful holidays. We will be back to review Week 18 next week. We hope that in the meantime you accomplish what you put your mind to. We hope that you all have a great time out there. We hope that everybody out there is awesome. We'll see. Chris will belch and I will say peace. And remember, stay bearded.